The alien queen asked, "What is a hug?" He showed her gently. Dr. Marcus Chen had always believed that first contact would happen in a laboratory, surrounded by scientists and government officials. He never imagined it would occur in his grandmother's rose garden on a quiet Tuesday evening in rural Oregon. The dimensional rift appeared without warning, shimmering like heat waves above the ancient oak tree where he'd built countless childhood forts. She emerged gracefully, her form both alien and achingly beautiful. Her skin held the luminescence of moonlight on water, and her eyes sparkled with the depth of distant galaxies. Though clearly not human, she possessed an elegance that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, and when she moved, it seemed as though she danced with the very air around her. "Greetings, inhabitant of this realm," she spoke, her voice carrying the melody of wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "I am Lirelai, sovereign of the ethereal domains. I have traveled far to study your species' customs." Marcus set down his watering can, his hands trembling slightly. "I'm Marcus, Dr. Marcus Chen. You're actually here. An alien. I mean, an extraterrestrial being." He laughed nervously. "Sorry, I study quantum physics, not xenobiology. I'm not sure what the proper protocol is." Lirelai tilted her head, studying him with curious intensity. "You show no fear, Marcus Chen. This is unexpected. My research indicated your species typically responds with aggression or terror when confronted with the unknown. Maybe I'm just too shocked to be afraid," Marcus admitted, wiping his dusty hands on his jeans. "Or maybe it's because you appeared in my grandmother's garden. This place has always felt magical to me. Nothing truly harmful could exist here." The alien queen glanced around at the carefully tended roses, the stone pathways worn smooth by decades of footsteps, and the small wooden bench where Marcus's grandmother had sat every evening until her passing last spring. "This space holds significance for you. I can sense the emotional resonance in the very atoms of this place. My grandmother raised me here after my parents died. Every memory I have of love and safety is connected to this garden." Marcus gestured toward the roses. "She taught me that growing things requires patience, tenderness, and understanding. Maybe that's why I'm not afraid of you." Lirelai stepped closer, her bare feet seeming to barely touch the ground. "Your grandmother sounds like a wise being. In my realm, we value knowledge above all else, but we have forgotten much about what you call tenderness." She paused, her expression growing thoughtful. "I have observed your species from afar, and there is one behavior that puzzles me greatly. I have seen humans engage in an action where they wrap their arms around one another. It serves no apparent survival function, yet it seems to bring them great comfort." Marcus smiled, understanding dawning in his eyes. "You mean hugging?" "Hugging," she repeated, testing the word. "Yes. What is a hug, Marcus Chen? What purpose does it serve?" As the evening light painted the garden in shades of gold and amber, Marcus realized he was about to explain one of humanity's most fundamental expressions of love to a being from another world. The thought filled him with unexpected warmth. Part 2. The lesson begins next evening. Lirelai returned as promised, materializing in the same spot beneath the oak tree. Marcus had spent the entire day thinking about her question, trying to find words to explain something so instinctive, so fundamentally human. "I brought tea," he said, gesturing to the small table he'd set up beside his grandmother's bench. "I thought we might sit and talk properly." Lirelai approached the table with fluid grace, her silver hair catching the last rays of sunlight. "This is another human custom I do not understand. The sharing of heated plant water. It's about comfort, connection, like hugging, but different." Marcus poured 2 cups of chamomile tea, the steam rising between them like incense. "My grandmother used to say that sharing tea was like sharing a moment of peace with someone." The alien queen accepted the cup, holding it carefully between her long, elegant fingers. "Your grandmother appears in many of your explanations. She was important to you. She was everything to me." Marcus's voice grew soft. "She gave me my first real hug when I was 7 years old, the day I came to live with her. I was scared, angry, and so alone. She didn't say anything, just wrapped her arms around me and held me until I stopped crying." Lirelai observed him carefully, her luminous eyes reflecting his emotions. "And this action, this hug, it diminished your distress?" "It did more than that. It made me feel safe for the first time since my parents died. It told me I wasn't alone anymore." Marcus sat down, his cup meeting her gaze. A hug isn't just physical contact, it's a promise. It says, I'm here, you matter, you're not alone. In my realm, we communicate through shared consciousness. We can feel each other's thoughts, emotions, experiences directly. But this is different. Lirelai's expression grew thoughtful. It is physical, yet it conveys something beyond the physical. Exactly. It's like Marcus searched for the right words. Imagine if you could wrap someone in safety itself, not just tell them they're protected, but make them feel it in their bones. Lirelai stood and moved to the rose bushes, her fingers hovering above the blooms without quite touching them. I begin to understand. In my observations, I have seen humans embrace during moments of great joy, deep sorrow, fear, and celebration. The action remains the same, yet the meaning shifts. The meaning comes from the intention behind it, Marcus explained, joining her among the roses. A hug between friends is different from a hug between lovers, different from a hug between parent and child. But they all share that core message. You are valued, you are cared for. And how does one execute this hug? Lirelai asked, turning to face him fully. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. In the fading light, she looked almost ethereal, like a dream made manifest. Well, there's no wrong way, really. It's about what feels natural, what the moment calls for. I find myself curious about this experience, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. In all my travels, across countless worlds and dimensions, I have never encountered anything quite like this. Would you like to try? Marcus asked gently. I could show you, if you're comfortable with that. Lirelai nodded slowly. Yes, I would. Like to understand what a hug truly is. Marcus stepped closer, his movements careful and deliberate. The most important thing is that it should never be forced. It has to be wanted by both people, or it loses all meaning. I understand, she said, her luminous eyes fixed on his face. I want to learn. As the stars began to appear overhead, Marcus prepared to teach an alien queen about one of humanity's most precious gifts, the simple, profound act of holding another being close enough to share warmth, comfort, and the unspoken promise that they are not alone in the universe. Part 3. The first touch. Marcus extended his hands slowly, palms up, giving Lirelai every opportunity to step away. May I? He asked softly. She nodded, placing her hands in his. Her skin was surprisingly warm, with a subtle luminescence that seemed to pulse gently like a heartbeat. The touch sent an unexpected thrill through Marcus, not just physical, but something deeper, as if their very essences were recognizing each other. The most basic hug is simple, Marcus explained, his voice slightly husky. You step close to someone, wrap your arms around them, and hold them gently. But it's the intention that matters most. Lirelai stepped closer, studying his face intently. What should my intention be? Whatever feels true to you in this moment, Marcus replied. Curiosity, friendship, comfort, connection, whatever you're feeling right now. She was so close. Now that he could see the way starlight seemed to dance in her eyes. I feel something I have no words for in my language. It is warm and bright, like the light of a distant star finally reaching its destination. Marcus felt his breath catch. That sounds like a beautiful intention for a hug. Slowly, carefully, he lifted his arms and placed them gently around her shoulders. She tensed for a moment, then gradually relaxed as she realized he posed no threat. Now, if you want to, you can put your arms around me too, he whispered. Lirelai hesitated, then slowly brought her arms up around his waist. The moment her arms encircled him, something extraordinary happened. A soft golden light seemed to emanate from where their bodies touched, growing brighter as she fully embraced him. Oh, she breathed, her voice filled with wonder. Oh, Marcus. I can feel your warmth, your heartbeat. But more than that, I can sense your emotions, your memories of comfort and safety. Marcus felt it too, a connection deeper than physical touch. Through their embrace, he could sense her centuries of loneliness, her dedication to her people, her secret longing for something she'd never been able to name. Do you understand now? He asked gently. I think I am beginning to, she replied, her voice muffled against his shoulder. This sharing of warmth, of presence, it creates a bond, doesn't it? A temporary sanctuary where two beings can exist together without fear or judgment. They stood there in the garden, holding each other as the night deepened around them. The roses seemed to glow more brightly in the presence of their embrace, and the very air felt charged with possibility. Your grandmother was wise indeed, Lirelai murmured. I can feel why this memory brings you such comfort. Through your embrace, I can sense the echo of her love for you. They remained like that for several minutes, neither wanting to break the spell of their first shared hug. When they finally stepped apart, both were transformed by the experience. I must return to my realm soon, Lirelai said, though her voice carried reluctance. But I find myself changed by this experience. By you. Marcus felt a pang of loss at the thought of her leaving. Will you come back tomorrow? There's so much more I'd like to show you, to share with you. Lirelai smiled, and for the first time since he'd met her, it reached her eyes completely. Yes, Marcus Chen, I will return. I find myself quite curious about what other wonders your grandmother's garden might teach me. As she prepared to leave, she paused and looked back at him. Thank you for showing me what a hug truly is. I understand now why your species values this gift so highly. On the fourth night, Marcus found himself pacing the garden path, anxiously awaiting Lirelai's arrival. She had become the brightest part of his days, and he found himself thinking about her constantly, her musical laugh, the way she tilted her head when considering a new concept, the gentle radiance that seemed to surround her like starlight. When she appeared beneath the oak tree, she seemed different, somehow more radiant, more present. Marcus, she said, her voice carrying new warmth. I have been thinking about our lessons. And what have you concluded? He asked, moving closer to her. That there is much more to learn about human connection than I initially realized. She paused, her luminous eyes meeting his. I have been practicing what you taught me. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Practicing hugs? In a manner of speaking, I have been trying to understand the emotions I felt during our embrace. In my realm, such feelings are uncommon. She moved closer to him, her steps confident yet graceful. I believe humans have a word for what I am experiencing. What word is that? Affection, she said softly. And perhaps something deeper. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. Over the past few days, he had tried to convince himself that what he felt for Lirelai was simply fascination with the extraordinary. But deep down, he knew the truth. He was falling in love with her. Lirelai, he began, then stopped, unsure how to voice what he felt. She stepped closer, reaching out to touch his face with her luminous fingers. In my realm, we do not often speak of such things, but I find myself drawn to you in ways I cannot fully comprehend. When I am not here, I feel incomplete. I know exactly what you mean, Marcus whispered, covering her hand with his own. I think about you constantly. I've never felt anything like this before. Show me, she said suddenly. Show me how humans express these deeper feelings. Marcus's breath caught. Lirelai, are you asking me to? I am asking you to teach me about love, Marcus Chen. The kind of love that transcends species, dimensions, and everything that should make us impossible. Without another word, Marcus stepped forward and took her in his arms. This time, their embrace was different. Not just an exchange of comfort, but a declaration of something profound and unprecedented. The golden light that had appeared during their first hug now blazed between them, creating a cocoon of warmth and radiance. I love you, Marcus whispered against her hair. I know it's impossible. I know it's crazy, but I love you. And I love you, she replied, her voice filled with wonder. In all my centuries of existence, across all the worlds I have visited, I have never felt anything like what I feel for you. They held each other tighter, and the garden around them seemed to respond to their love. The roses bloomed more brightly, their fragrance growing stronger. The stars above appeared to pulse in rhythm with their heartbeats. What happens now? Marcus asked, though he dreaded the answer. I don't know, Lirelai admitted. My duties to my realm, your life in this world. There are obstacles that seem insurmountable. Then let's not think about them tonight, Marcus said, pulling back to look into her eyes. Tonight, let's just be here together, in this moment. Lirelai smiled, and it was like sunrise after the longest night. Yes, tonight, we simply love. They spent the evening in the garden, sharing stories, dreams, and countless gentle embraces. Each hug was a conversation without words, a promise that despite the impossible circumstances, what they had found together was real and precious beyond measure. On the fifth night, Lirelai arrived with a sadness that seemed to dim her usual radiance. Marcus knew immediately that something had changed. I have been summoned back to my realm, she said without preamble. The Council of Ethereal Domains has become concerned about my prolonged absence. Marcus felt his world tilt. How long do we have? This is our final night together, she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. They stood in the garden where their impossible love had bloomed, surrounded by the roses that had witnessed their first tentative touches and deepest confessions. The weight of impending separation hung between them like a physical presence. I won't accept this, Marcus said, fiercely, taking her hands in his. There has to be another way. My duties to my people, what about your duty to yourself? To us? Marcus's voice was raw with emotion. What we have is extraordinary, Lirelai. Surely that means something. Tears that sparkled like liquid starlight began to fall from her eyes. Of course it means something. It means everything. But I am bound by laws older than your civilization. Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her as tightly as he dared. Then we'll make tonight count for a lifetime. They spent their final hours sharing every emotion, every memory, every dream they'd been too afraid to voice. They talked about the life they might have had in a different universe, where the barriers between their worlds didn't exist. I want you to know, Lirelai said as dawn began to break, that you have changed me fundamentally. I came here to study human customs, but I learned something far more valuable. I learned what it means to love completely, without reservation, and you taught me that love isn't bound by the possible, Marcus replied, his voice thick with unshed tears. You taught me that some connections transcend everything we think we know about reality. As the first rays of sunlight touched the garden, Lirelai began to glow more brightly, her form starting to become translucent. I have to go, she whispered. I know, Marcus said, though every fiber of his being wanted to hold her there forever. They shared one final embrace, pouring all their love, hope, and heartbreak into that single moment of connection. The golden light that had always surrounded their hugs blazed more brilliantly than ever, and for an instant, it seemed as though the very fabric of reality bent around their love. I will never forget you, Marcus Chen, Lirelai said as she began to fade, and I will never forget you, my alien queen, Marcus replied. In every hug I give, in every moment of tenderness I share, you'll be there, she smiled through her tears. Then I will never truly be gone, as she vanished, leaving only the faint scent of starlight and the memory of impossible love. Marcus understood that some connections transcend physical presence. She had taught him that love is not diminished by distance or dimension. It simply transforms, becoming something eternal and unbreakable. Years later, as Marcus grew old in his grandmother's garden, he would tell visitors about the alien queen, who had asked him what a hug was, and how he had shown her gently. Some believed it was a beautiful story he had created. Others suspected it was something more, but Marcus knew the truth. Love had found a way to exist between worlds, in the space between heartbeats, in the warmth of every embrace. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the stars were particularly bright, he could swear he felt familiar arms around him once more, reminding him that some loves truly do transcend everything, even the impossible. The end.